Good afternoon. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm joined by Police Chief Peter Newsham and members of the Metropolitan Police Department. We are here today to provide an important public safety briefing, but most importantly, to talk about how we continue to need the public's help in solving the homicide of Makiyah Wilson. Makiyah Wilson, a 10-year-old, doing what 10-year-olds do near her home, 2 weeks ago was shot and killed. She was one of several victims that night in Washington, D.C. Her sister was also shot and survived. We need desperately for the public to come forward with any information that they have that may lead to justice for Makiyah and her family. Today, we are increasing the award for information leading to the prosecution of those responsible for Makiyah's death. That reward now stands at $45,000. It is certainly in all of our conversations with the residents of Clay Terrace, they have, like many communities, had enough of senseless violence, the use of illegal guns on our streets that is destroying families. I know I speak for all Washingtonians in saying that we have to solve this homicide and solve it just as quickly as possible. The MPD tip line is available at 202-727-9099. You may also contact MPD by texting 50411. That's 50411. Once again, that tip line is 202-727-9099. I'm going to ask Chief Newsham to provide any further details about this case. He'll be available also to provide information about the Unite the Right rally that is coming in the district, as well as other public safety updates. Chief.
Okay, Mayor Bowser, thank you very much. Although violent crime is down 7% in the district, we're very concerned about the recent increase in homicides. Again, I want to thank the mayor for dedicating so many D.C. government resources to this recent uptick. In addition to traditional law enforcement efforts, the mayor has tasked every agency in the district government with focusing on preventing these senseless killings. MPD has continued on the course of focusing on repeat violent offenders and removing illegal firearms from this community. So far this year, MPD officers have recovered over 1,000 illegal firearms from our streets, with the gun recovery unit leading the charge with 270 illegal firearm recoveries. This includes 2 significant gun trafficking arrests this past week, where 9 illegal firearms were recovered. On Friday, July 27th, members of the gun recovery unit and a task force comprised of members of MPD and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives were made aware that a male and female team were purchasing firearms at a gun show and were bringing them back to our city. They were later stopped in the 600 block of Mellon Street Southeast, and they were found in possession of 4 illegal firearms. They placed 27-year-old Isaiah Green and 28-year-old Jasmine Wilburn, both of Southeast D.C., under arrest for carrying a pistol without a license and possession of an unregistered firearm. Through the course of the investigation, an additional 5 illegal firearms and ammunition were recovered from Miss Wilburn's residence in the 3900 block of 4th Street Southeast. It was also learned that Miss Wilburn had made at least 30 purchases of firearms since June 24th. In addition to recovering illegal firearms and interrupting the sources of illegal firearms into our community, we've also diverted resources and increased patrols in neighborhood with the largest number of homicides. We're continuing to see success in our summer crime initiative, where violent crime in our summer crime initiative areas is down 17%. Additionally, MPD officers continue to close homicide cases. Recent homicide closures include on July 20th, 17-year-old Bernard McKinney of Northeast D.C. was arrested and charged as an adult with first-degree murder while armed for the shooting death of 24-year-old Damon Cheekus. This closure did not get a lot of attention, but this was an incredibly sad case where Mr. Chikas lost his life after he was shot multiple times on July 11th in the 300 block of 50th Street Northeast. Mr. Chikas had simply come to work that day and tragically lost his life. Another recent homicide closure is for the fatal stabbing of 68-year-old Anthony Anderson of Northwest D.C. that occurred this past Friday. At approximately 4:30 p.m., an off-duty 3rd District police officer observed two males fighting in the 3600 block of 14th Street Northwest. That officer, off-duty at the time, was able to intervene and detain the suspect. Additional officers arrived on the scene, and 54-year-old Alton Rivers of Northwest D.C. was arrested and charged with second-degree murder while armed. There was a second homicide that occurred on July 27th, this past Friday, in the 4300 block of 4th Street Southeast. At approximately 9:48 p.m., members of the 7th District responded to the listed location for the report of a shooting. They located 22-year-old David Hart of Southeast D.C., suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Mr. Hart was transported to an area hospital, and after life-saving efforts, he was pronounced dead. Detectives were able to work quickly to obtain an arrest warrant for Marcus Antoine Whitaker. I have a photograph, and this will be shared with you all. We also want to remind the public that we continue to seek the assistance in locating 48-year-old Xavier Jerome Dunmore of Southeast D.C., who's currently wanted on a D.C. Superior Court arrest warrant for second-degree murder while armed in the fatal shooting of Wakima Ferguson that occurred on Sunday, June 10th in the 700 block of 12th Street. So 2 weeks ago, and the mayor spoke about this in detail, a family that lived in Clay Terrace, our community in the city of Washington, D.C., was devastated by a senseless act of gun violence. On Monday, July 16th, at approximately 8 p.m. in the evening, members of the 6th District responded to the 300 block of 53rd Street Northeast for the sounds of gunshots. Video would later reveal that 5 masked men drove into the block armed with handguns and at least one assault weapon, and indiscriminately fired over 70 rounds in multiple directions in our Clay Terrace neighborhood. When the dust settled, 10-year-old Makiyah Wilson was left dead, and 4 others had suffered gunshot wounds. Detectives have made a significant amount of progress in this case, and I want to thank everybody so far that has come forward with tips and information. But we're going to continue to ask for the public's assistance, and I want to thank the FBI, who's represented here today, for offering to give an additional $20,000 to the reward money, to increase the reward money to $45,000 for the arrest and conviction of any of these 5 men that were involved in this case. If you have information relative to this case, it may be the piece of information that gets us over the top. You can give it to us by calling 202-727-9099 or by texting 50411. We can take any questions that you all might have.
Matt Cohen, the City Paper. Chief, is there any sort of motivation that officers have identified for this shooting?
We're still looking at the motive. We have a couple possible motives, but nothing we want to talk about publicly right now.
Have you conducted any search warrants in connection with this case?
If we have search warrants, we're not going to talk about those publicly, Pat. So.
Have you identified any potential suspects here?
We do not have probable cause to make arrests in this case. I can tell you the amount of information that we're getting from the public is substantial. Some of that information has been very helpful to us. I can tell you we also have homicide detectives and folks from the U.S. Attorney's Office working round the clock to find out who these 5 people are. As soon as we have probable cause, we will be making an arrest in this case.
Earlier you had said it appears to be a dispute between 2 neighborhoods. Can you tell us what neighborhoods that are?
That's one of the theories that we're still working on, is whether or not it was a dispute between neighborhoods or if it was something else. As soon as we have a firmed up motive, we will share that with you.
There was a shooting that happened over the weekend on Pearl Street in Northeast. Any indication that this is related two Makiyah shootings?
Yeah, we have nothing to suggest that those two shootings are related at this point.
Can you talk about the car that you were able to find pretty quickly after the shootings and what came from that, if anything?
I can't talk about evidence in the case. We did, thanks to the public's assistance, we were able to recover the vehicle, and we have definitively determined that the vehicle that we recovered in Prince George's County, Maryland, is the vehicle that was used in that attack. And we will be scouring that piece of evidence for any forensic information that might lead us to arrests.
That car was stolen, was it not, Chief?
It was.
And you said 5 suspects. Does that mean there was a driver involved here who never left that car?
We believe there was a driver, yes, sir.
Is there a strong indication that the shooters might be based in Maryland, and are you working with the PG County Police to follow that down?
Yeah, we work very closely with all of our partners on any homicide case that we think that crosses the borders. Because the vehicle was found in the state of Maryland, that's one of the things we will most definitely look at. Prince George's County Police Department has been unbelievably helpful with regards to this case.
Is the FBI helping out in the investigation?
We have not asked the FBI to give us any assistance in this case, but I can tell you we are extremely thankful that the FBI has contributed $20,000 to the reward money. And I can tell you, whenever we have asked the Federal Bureau of Investigation to assist us with any of our criminal investigations, they have bent over backwards to help us.
Mayor Bowser, 20 community groups and an ANC commissioner are requesting that you release the body-worn camera footage from the 2 incidents in Deanwood, and that the significant public interest in those incidents overrides any FOIA laws that the police department is using to reject requests for that video. Are you going to release that Deanwood body cam video?
Well, certainly any subject, any person interested who was involved can go to the district, that's the 6th district, to request a viewing.
I'm sorry. So why can't you just...
We haven't had anybody come into the district to view it. But certainly we have a protocol, especially if it involves an injury or fatality that we follow with regard to body-worn camera use. And I have the ability, especially in those cases, to override a FOIA instance, and we haven't come to that determination yet.
So to be clear, then, you won't release the footage through FOIA, but we can go down to the district and view the footage. Is that correct?
The subjects of the video.
The subjects of the video, so people who were involved
The people, absolutely.
And just one follow-up question. Some of those same people who wrote those letters believe that Chief Newsham should be removed from office because he's ineffective. Is that something you would consider moving forward if relationships between the police department and those communities don't improve?
I have full confidence in Chief Newsham's leadership. Yes.
Following up on Eric's question, have you responded to the letter that was signed, I believe, was by the ACLU?
I don't know about it specifically, but I'll take a look at it. Yes. Hold on one second, Pat. Yes.
Sorry, back to the shooting. Have you spoken personally to Makiyah's mother?
I have.
A lot of times in other cities, mayors speak out about this. Any reason why you've waited till now to speak publicly about this shooting?
Oh, perhaps you haven't seen all of my previous comments about the shooting, including on the scene. Yes.
Was it for me?
Yes.
Okay, with the August 1st, I guess, allowable release of 3D printed guns, I don't know if Chief Newsham, what, if any, change does this have for the city, and what should people know about this?
And ask the chief to address your question.
Yeah, because of district laws, those guns would be illegal in the District of Columbia because they can't be traced and because of the type of weapons that they are. So we're very comfortable that the laws we have in the District of Columbia will protect us from any 3D created guns. Oftentimes when we say 3D here in Washington, D.C., people like to refer to the 3rd District, but that's 3-dimensional. So maybe we should be a little bit more specific. And my understanding of the 3-dimensional guns that have been recovered that in the country have mostly been recovered from the West Coast. We haven't seen that phenomena out here on the East Coast yet.
Are
Are you concerned, Chief, about the 3D guns, though, making their way into the city?
I'm concerned about any guns making their way, illegal firearms making their way into the District of Columbia. You know, we got our police officers out here every single day removing these illegal firearms from the community. I'm absolutely sure that was 4 illegal firearms that was used in the murder of a 10-year-old child in one of our communities. Any time somebody wants to bring an illegal firearm into this community, we are going to make every effort to make sure that we get that weapon removed from our community.
You mentioned there are a number of tips that are coming in. The mayor mentioned that we were in desperate need of the community to come forward. This has been featured on television. You have the car. What is the level of frustration right now that you guys haven't made the next step?
I'm not frustrated at all. I think the investigation is progressing in a very positive way. You know, I would think that any man that was responsible for a death of a 10-year-old by way of a bullet in our community would come down to 101 M Street to our homicide unit and turn themselves in. These 5 men have chosen not to do that, so we intend to do everything that's possibly within our power to find out who's responsible and hold them accountable.
Chief, you mentioned that people are coming forward with information. A lot of times in some communities you have this code on the streets, no snitching, things like that. Do you feel like that's applying in this case, or people are coming forward because she's a child?
Yeah, I don't think it is applying in this case. I think everybody that I have spoken to throughout the District of Columbia, everyone that I've spoken to about this case, the folks that I saw that attended her funeral, are putting a lot of pressure on people to come forward with information. And I can't thank people enough. Sometimes people think that the little thing that they have seen is not important. But I have to say that it can very well be the piece of information that gets us to make sure that these guys are held accountable.
Can you tell me how many tips you all have gotten so far?
A lot. A lot.
I do want to circle back to the Deanwood video one more time. Why do you not think it reaches the level of...
Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, wait a minute. I'm asking the mayor a question, Chief. Why doesn't it reach the level? Why doesn't it reach a level of significant public interest? That's all I wanted a little bit more explanation on.
Well, I answered your question already about the protocol we follow, and especially where we have incidents where there has been bodily injury or a fatality. We are very careful to make sure that anybody was involved in one of our videos would have the opportunity to view that at the station. And that's where we are.
Police-involved shootings. I know 3 men have died this year in police-involved confrontations. And the names of those officers or the body cam footage hasn't been released. Is that something that you plan to?
We review each case, and it is always our intention to make sure that we are able to protect the prosecution of people responsible in those cases. And so that's why it's always a case-by-case review that I have the ultimate decision, but in consultation with the U.S. Attorney, in consultation with the Office of the Attorney General, and with the police chief.
Would you make a formal announcement if you do plan or don't plan to do that, and sort of explain why?
We always accompany any release with a statement.
So can we assume there's been no decision made in any of those 3 cases?
We always release a statement when it's appropriate. Yes, Chief.
I just want to add some detail to that, because I've heard that multiple times, that there were 3 police fatalities, and actually in one of those cases it was an off-duty police officer who did not have a body-worn camera at the time. Our officers do not wear their cameras when they're off duty. The other one was a traffic fatality, and I don't think we've had that circumstance before where we've released a body-worn camera with regards to a traffic fatality. And then the third was a police-involved shooting, which the mayor is considering. So it's really one body-worn camera that we're talking about.
What sort of investigation, if there isn't a camera involved, how do you conduct those investigations? You know,
just like any, that's a good question. Just like any other criminal investigation, we would gather all the video that could potentially be in the area. We would talk to any witnesses that were in the area, and then we would take all the forensic evidence from the area, and we try to piece together exactly what happened.
Is that footage treated the same way as body cam footage?
What footage is that?
The one that you mentioned, if they don't, whatever footage in the area that you mentioned. mentioned there's not.
We have no control over that footage. That footage, we will take that as evidence in the case. Frequently, the people who own that video will release it publicly. We see that all the time.
Quick follow-up. I know that that there have been community meetings that you've attended after Councilmember Allen's hearing that he held. Do you have any more meetings planned with the community to kind of discuss relations and Makiyah Wilson's
plan to meet with the community every single day? That's what we do here in the district government. I go to 3 or 4 community meetings a week. Attended a softball game this past weekend with our returning citizens. Metropolitan Police Department won 14-6, by the way. But we intend to play again next year. I mean, the number one thing we can do as a police department is continue to have a dialogue. The most recent meeting that I went to up in Deanwood was an excellent meeting between members of the police department and the community. I think that we are past, and one of the things we agreed on as a department and as a community, we all want to move forward after Sheriff Road. I think that, whenever something like that happens, it can chip away at the trust that we're trying to build every single day. But I think also when people see that we're willing to come out and speak about these incidents and to agree on the things that we agree on and try and fix the things that we disagree on, we move forward as a city. You have a police department in Washington, D.C. who has a reputation of having an excellent relationship with the community that we serve. We are leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other police agencies in this country, and I intend to keep us moving in that direction. Yep.
Can we talk about the Unite the Right rally preparations for
We
that?
can, sure.
Where you guys are, what you're thinking strategically? I mean, Governor Northam on WTOP said we could have handled this better. We let those two groups clash. Right. Is there any kind of lessons learned there that we can apply to D.C.?
This puts MPD in a very precarious position, I have to say, is that, people come to Washington, D.C. expressing all types of First Amendment rights. Sometimes when they're expressing their views, they can be contrary to some of our personal views, but that's not our role as a police department. Our role is to make sure that we have a First Amendment event that goes on without any types of violence or destruction of property. And so we intend to have the entire police department engaged to make sure that we handle this. We handle this type of thing in the District of Columbia probably better than any other police department in the country. We intend for these folks to come, to express their First Amendment rights, and to leave without incident. That's what we intend to do.
So you didn't answer my question about strategy, keeping the group separate, and
yeah,
then also this is not like a normal parade. I mean, this is a little more high tension.
We've had those types of high tension assemblies here in the district before. We 100% are going to make sure that the groups remain separate. We don't want to see, people can always express their views, whatever they may be. And our role as a police department is make sure that they're able to do that, and that we facilitate that. And then the number one role is to make sure nothing gets broken and nobody gets hurt. So we will do that, and I intend to have an event that goes on without incident here in the District of Columbia. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.